Hello, welcome to my channel, I'm glad to see you. And welcome back to Gaming Recommendations, the series that will help you, a player with great taste in gaming, to find the next game you love. But before we start, please don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. And with that out of the way, let's get started. Back in the late 90s, skateboards was the trend on the rise. Thanks to the X Games, radical sports was in the center of the cultural zeitgeist. And who else should be the poster child of their era than Tony Hawk? Well, poster man, since he wasn't that young anymore, but I digress. And with the popularity of the Birdman, the PlayStation and skateboard in general, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was born. Or Tony Hawk Skateboarding in Europe. Wouldn't want the boys to think we're playing games about skates, right lads? No, that would be utterly embarrassing indeed. And the rest is history, as they say. Tips became a record-breaking, high-score ranking, new skater-making legend. But the bigger you are, the greater the fall, and boy did Tony Hawk Pro Skater fall. By the time American Wasteland was released, series fatigue was starting to set, and the cracks were beginning to show. No longer was the series as revered as before, and the decline in overall interest was clear. Project H didn't impress anyone, and Proving Ground was the last nail on the old school series. A breath of fresh air was needed, but what no one anticipated is that it would come from EA no less. And that breath of fresh air was Skate. And in this episode of Gaming Recommendations, we'll talk a bit about what makes Skate special and bring you a game that might surprise you. And the first thing that separates Skate from Tony Hawk's and was one of the selling points of the series was Realism. Skate wasn't just a run-of-the-mill Tony Hawk's clone, like many tried to be in the past. It was way more than that. It aimed to bring more realism to skating game genre. It wanted to be the Gran Turismo to the Tony Hawk's Need for Speed, using racing games as an analogy. Because although the Pro Skater series was great fun, it never bothered to be realistic in the first place. And despite being responsible for creating thousands of new skaters throughout the years, myself included, it was a bit frustrating to see the inhuman acts of athleticism the characters were able to do in the game. At least compared to how hard skating is in real life actually. It was the boys' version of watching your favorite celebrity on TV, and how perfect her life is, and how beautiful her skin is on the magazine. It makes us feel inferior sometimes, you know? It feels like Skate got that, bringing a more down-to-earth approach to skateboarding. It's like a back to basics, no matter whatever the hell this is. It felt like learning how to skate again. You had a completely different control scheme, a more realistic physics engine, objectives that felt possible in real life. You get the gist of it. And that sense of realism was the first thing that caught our attention when Skate were released, even if it threw it away by the wayside on future releases. And to accompany that newfound sense of realism came the authenticity. Skate was the real deal. It was authentic to the skateboarding culture. It brought a bunch of underrepresented new talent to the roster.
What up, man?
But better than that, it was the tale of your rise to fame, from humble beginnings to the professional scene. It felt like the story of the first Tony Hawk's Underground, which is one of my personal favorites. Without jumping the shark, of course. Skate felt like a true love letter to young skateboarders. Each understood their dreams and goals, rising up from nothing, impressing local skaters to be able to score some free merch, trying your best to stand out so you can become part of a team, and hopefully get sponsored.
Hey, it's Chris. It's about time you chose Zero. Welcome to the team. Psyched to have you on board.
It was all there, and it felt amazing. Part of what made it so authentic was San Vanelona, the game city which is a mix of San Francisco, Vancouver and Barcelona, hence the name. It didn't feel like a skate playground like most Tony Hawk levels felt at the time. It was a real city, with people living their lives, and in a real city you have to hunt for good spots to skate. And whenever you found one, it was so much fun to put your mark on a spot and skate there until you're sick of it, or if you got a perfect video footage. And off you go to your next spot. That game loop was addicting, and it was incredibly authentic. Finding new spots to shred has always been one of the core tenets of street skate, and it's brilliantly represented here in Skate. And last but not least, Street Above Vert. Okay, I admit, this is more of a pet peeve I have than an actual problem that needs solving. But the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series became overly reliant on vert as the game progressed. On Pro Skater 3 we were introduced to revert, which is a move you can do to extend your combos even after using a half pipe. That opened a lot of possibilities in the game. Verts and half pipes weren't just placed to end your combos, like they were in the second game. Now you could extend your combos beyond that, and that became the main way to get high scores in the series. But anyone who skated back in the day knew that half pipes and verts in general was just a small part of skateboarding, no matter what the X Games might make you believe. And that was the reality in skate. Sure, you have a few pulls and half pipes every now and then, but what you're doing in the game is mostly street oriented. And I love that. I really did. I still do, in fact. I don't want to be the next Tony Hawk. I don't have the money to make a skate park in my backyard like Bobby Burnquist. I want to find cool new handrails to grind, cool little gaps to ollie over. That's my jam. And if street skating is my jam, realism my peanut butter, and authenticity my bread, EA Skate is indeed a delicious sandwich made for me. It might not be fine dining, but we're eating good, baby. And you know what game might be up your alley if you're a skate fan? I bet a bunch of people guessed Sessions. And don't get me wrong, I also like Sessions a lot, but although it can be quite good at times, when it's not, it simply crashes and burns. I feel like this game deserves more time in the oven. As it stands right now, it's more like a glorified demo than a full-fledged game in my eyes. The game I want to recommend you is Thrasher Skate and Destroy. For some, it might seem like EA Skate was the first Tony Hawk alternative that focused on realism, but that's not the case. Thrasher Skate and Destroy was developed by Z-Axis and published by Rockstar Games. Yes, GTA's Rockstar Games.
Oh shit, here we go again.
It was released on November of '99, a mere 2 months after the first tip, meaning that both were probably developed simultaneously, not meaning to compete with each other at all. Not that there was any competition to speak of. The fact that Tony Hawk's became a series and almost no one knows what Thrasher Skate and Destroy is tells the whole tales of who won that war. But enough boomer class about 5th generation skate games. Let's dive in on what makes Thrasher Skate and Destroy perfect for skate fans. Realism. You might think I'm joking when you see these graphics and then me ranting about realism, but stay with me. For the time, this game was the closest thing we had to actual skating. Your moves need to be calculated in order to do an actual line. Balancing grinds is very hard if you're going slow. Unless you're using a skater good with high drops, jumping from heights will probably end up in crashes. Even controlling your skater is a bit harder the faster you're going. And if you fall hard or get run over by some vehicle, you might fail your run for accidentally breaking your board. And the trade-off for such brutal difficulty is a gameplay that feels way more similar to real-life skating than the competition. And the way this game controls seems very purposeful to the search of realism. You see, when you're trying to do flip tricks, in Tony Hawk's you simply jump, hold your direction and press the flip button. But in reality, you do the flip motion with your foot the moment you pop the ollie, not after. And in Thrasher, that's exactly how you do it. You hold the flip button plus the direction, and when you let it go, your character will do the flip. Because of that, every combo needs to be planned in anticipation of the obstacles. Every action you take feels very purposeful, as it should be, since repeating the same lines over and over lets you less points. And of course, it is as realistic as the PS1 power will allow it to be. But let's ollie into our next topic. Authenticity. You can't create your character in this game, you have to pick between pre-made ones. But your journey to the pro leagues feels similar as the one in Skate. You begin skating around in public places, shredding local spots in search of recognition. Even if the local police doesn't agree with you breaking and entering private places late at night for that.
Hey kid, I want you to meet my little friend, Mr. Taser. Ha, is that all you got?
This mechanic of running away from trouble at the end of your run is so much fun, and if you're ballsy enough to keep doing tricks even while on chase, you get a huge points multiplier for that.
You're paying for making me run like this.
Snake, are you okay? Snake?
And if you manage to do enough points on these locations, you end up on local competitions where you can get some sponsors. And it was so cool to be able to be sponsored by brands that I loved as a teenager, like Volcon and Globe. It really felt like you were going up on the leagues, to the point of eventually having 4 different sponsorships where you could mix and match the merch. It helps the fact that the game was branded after the Thrasher magazine, one of the bigger ones at the time. It seems like their intended audience was primarily skaters. Well, at least back in the early 2000s it felt like it. Oh, and remember what I said about San Vanalona in Skate? The same applies here. The stages all felt very authentic to the experience of a street skater. They weren't just vert playgrounds, they felt like real places. And finding the best spots to skate was part of the appeal. Talking about verts, let's get on to our third point. Street above vert. Just like EA Skate, this game also features some half pipes and vert ramps, and you can in fact use them as you like. But the focus of this game is clearly on street. It's easy to see considering how many set pieces of each you have on the stages. And it's interesting to see how on the official competitions you have a few more verts to skate. It felt very realistic to each environment. Take the downhill level. It's almost too hard to find a good spot to reach the high score there, since most of the level is composed of sidewalks and downhill streets. But to me that's part of the appeal. Skating is also a form of showing your creativity, and these streets are your canvas, so you gotta be creative. And it's not like I dislike vert in general, I actually really enjoy it. But every building having a vert in front of them like it usually is on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater takes me out of the experience a bit. Because in real life, you're lucky if you have a park with half pipes that's near where you live. So you usually have to make do with what you have, and both Skate and Thrasher get that. But like I said before, that's mostly a nitpick on my part as a mainly street skater. This point might not mean anything to you, and I totally get that. I'm not here to your yum. And that's it for this video. If you like Skate, I hope you give Thrasher Skate and Destroy a chance. I'm sure you'll find something here to enjoy, even if it is to pretend this is a remake of Skate. I rarely see people talking about this game, since it was so overshadowed by Tony Hawk's back in the day. So it makes me happy to shine a light on it, and it would make my day knowing some people wouldn't enjoy it. Have you ever heard of this game before? Have you played it? What do you think of it? Let's chat in the comments. And thank you very much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, and consider subscribing because I intend to make many more like this one. That's it for now. Bye bye.